The earth rumbled and shook. People ran outside in terror, but there was nowhere to hide. The very ground they stood on was about to vanish into molten lava. They had no choice but to scream at the top of their lungs as they fell into a massive magma chamber beneath their feet. Unfortunately, this isn't just some terrifying nightmare. It's the terrifying reality for some people around the world, thanks to these mysterious holes in the earth. These holes are dangerous and deadly. But what makes them even scarier is that we're still uncovering exactly what they are and how they work. Here's the scary truth about the deepest hole in the earth. First, we have to understand why there are so many of these giant openings. If you look closely at the surface of our planet, you can see that it's dotted with countless mountains, valleys, and plates of rock. This means that our planet's crust is broken up into several pieces known as tectonic plates. And while they may seem stationary, each plate moves between 1 and 10 centimeters every year. These moving slabs are constantly colliding with each other, either creating new land masses or disappearing beneath other plates. Now, we know that this is a slow process that happens over millions of years, but if a tectonic plate collides with a hot spot, things can happen much faster. That's because sometimes these collisions cause parts of the Earth's mantle to melt and form magma chambers. So, when the tectonic plate crashes into an already existing chamber, it can cause the entire thing to collapse. Now, as you can imagine, this would be catastrophic for anyone who happened to be standing nearby. But before we move on, please take a moment to give this video a thumbs up if you find it interesting. And don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an upload. Thanks for your support. The great thing is that most of these incidents are predictable. That's because scientists can tell when a magma chamber is getting close to overflowing by measuring seismic activity in different parts of the world. When there are lots of earthquakes in a small area, it could mean that there's too much pressure building up inside the magma chamber. However, even though they can predict when this might happen, there's nothing that humans can do to stop it from happening. In fact, even if we wanted to fill the hole with concrete, it wouldn't work. That's because these chambers are much deeper than you'd think. The deepest magma chamber ever found was discovered in 2017 by researchers at the University of Liverpool. Using advanced drilling techniques, they were able to unearth the deepest hole in the Earth, which was located in the Kola Peninsula. At the time, everyone was baffled because it was nearly twice as deep as the deepest mine in the world. Even more surprising is that the hole didn't lead to anything. It wasn't filled with oil, gas, or precious metals. Instead, it went all the way down to the Earth's mantle. The team realized that the only reason they hadn't reached molten lava was because they were 12 kilometers away from a magma chamber. As soon as they got closer, however, everything changed. The drill bit started to melt, and they were forced to pull back. Scientists believe that this is the first time that humans have ever touched molten rock from the Earth's mantle. They called it the Holy Grail of geology, and you can probably guess why. While scientists were excited to have made this discovery, it meant that they had unearthed something that most of us would consider to be a curse. After all, there are thousands of these hidden magma chambers beneath our feet, and some of them are just waiting to erupt. If one did suddenly appear in your city, what would you do? Well, unfortunately, the answer is probably nothing. While there are many different ways that scientists can measure seismic activity, none of them are accurate enough to predict when an underground magma chamber will collapse. That's because these chambers can open up anywhere and at any time. Take, for example, the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. One day, geologists noticed that there was increased volcanic activity, and they began monitoring the situation closely. Then one morning, a magnitude 5.1 earthquake struck, and scientists assumed that this was a sign that the magma chamber was about to overflow. However, they thought that the lava would come out of the side of the mountain instead of the top. They were so sure of this that they set up camp just 24 kilometers away. But then, something incredible happened. A massive explosion blasted upwards, killing dozens of people and covering the surrounding area in ash. To this day, it remains the deadliest eruption in US history. Now, this is just one example, but it shows how difficult it is to predict when a magma chamber might erupt. And that's why we still haven't been able to prevent any of these incidents from happening. But let's say that you were lucky enough to survive the initial disaster. Would you be able to escape afterwards? Strangely, the answer is no. You see, when a magma chamber collapses, it doesn't just open up on the surface of the Earth, it also creates a sinkhole underneath our feet. Imagine walking along the street when the ground suddenly opens up and swallows you whole. You're falling into a massive cavern full of burning lava, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The worst part is that this actually happened in 2011 in Guatemala. A man named Jose and his son were walking across a bridge when the ground gave way. Jose was immediately engulfed by molten lava and killed instantly. His son managed to scramble to safety, but he lost his life after trying to save his father. The good news is that incidents like this are incredibly rare. In fact, you're more likely to be killed by lightning, but that doesn't mean that you should start walking around with your eyes closed. In 1986, a woman named Geraldine Lage was hiking with her husband when she suddenly vanished. Her body was never recovered, and the authorities couldn't explain what had happened until 2 years later. In 2007, hikers came across her skeleton and realized that she must have fallen into a sinkhole. They had no idea that she had been missing for over 20 years, but now they knew exactly what had happened. Now you might be thinking that this is just another tragic accident, but there's something strange about it. You see, Geraldine isn't the only person who has fallen victim to a mysterious sinkhole. Since 2003, there have been 7 similar cases in the same area of Maine. But while 6 of them were explained, Geraldine's death remained a mystery. That's because the sinkhole that swallowed her was hiding 12 meters below the forest floor. It wasn't big enough to be seen from the surface, but it was deep enough to swallow someone whole. While scientists still haven't figured out why these sinkholes keep appearing, they do know that the holes aren't caused by magma chambers. Instead, they're created by rainwater that seeps through the soil and dissolves the limestone. Eventually, the ground becomes too weak to hold itself up, and the earth gives way. So while you might think that there's nothing you can do to prevent yourself from falling into a sinkhole, there is something you can do. Just watch your step, because the earth is always changing beneath your feet. So do you think you could survive falling into a magma chamber? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos about amazing discoveries like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.